to Dream It, Dare It, Do It, a podcast where we're talking about living the life you want, living the life you love. And today I have another friend of mine. I know you guys have been meeting all my friends, but here's another friend, Jason Deppen. Hi, Jason.
Hey, how are you? Hi, everybody.
Jason is a person that I met during my Super Coach Academy, and he's part of the Uncomfortables also. The course that we did earlier this year. If you guys want to know anything about it, go on my website and you'll see the uncomfortable, find comfort in the uncomfortable. And Jason was there with me. But you want to tell them in your words, what do you do, Jason? Because you've been refocusing or thinking it through again. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Big time. Yeah, I'll give you a little short bio, not to go too crazy, but I've been broken ever since I was a kid, picked on, bullied. I was a dork, couldn't make friends. In my mind, had a crazy mom. And so I guess about joined the Army in 97. I was 19. And pretty much ever since then, I was on the self-improvement journey. And I kind of don't do that anymore, which is weird for me. It really is weird. I have 150 audiobooks, and I don't know. I just don't feel the pull to go do that anymore. But yeah, I got into real estate, built up a real estate business, working with buyers and sellers, and bought some rental properties. I also do some programming. So I do dabble a lot in many things. I joined Super Coach Academy just because it really made so much sense. I just saw the light, so to speak. There was so much freedom. Did that, finished that up, kind of went a little slightly different route with philosophy. And I kind of feel like the seeking is over. So yeah, I don't really know what the next few years is going to be like, but I'm really excited to find out.
Very cool. So some things showed up and now it's slipped my mind, but I just had a conversation with a girlfriend actually, and we were having a conversation about want. And you know what, I started the podcast saying dream it, dare it, do it, live the life you want. And I was wondering if you well, first of all, are you living the life you want?
I can say that I am. Yeah.
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 Have you, like, we were having this conversation about, wanting something and wanting it freely, not wanting it because of, like wanting it because it's something we made up, we should have in our minds. Like,
Yeah.
have you thought like why do you say that you are living the life you want? Like, what do you see in that respect?
I just have a certain contentment these days, almost to the point where it's like the business is running on its own for the most part. I don't feel a need to go out and recruit new agents and build the business and grow it. Just because at a certain point, like what's the point, right? So yeah, I kind of see what you're saying there, right? When I have a desire for something, I like to look at why do I want this thing? Like, oh, okay, maybe for a lot of people, and it was for me. I want this thing so that people will envy me, so I'll have a feeling of importance, right? I want this thing because I feel like I'm going to be happy if I have it. And the weird thing for me now is that, okay, so well, we just got a Tesla, and I'm a very frugal guy. I would never consider spending money on a Tesla. And now that I've kind of seen some things spiritually, it just made sense to do it. So I found myself getting a Tesla, which was very interesting. And especially since it wasn't from a standpoint of, oh, wait till people see this, which is kind of the American, maybe the Western world mentality.
So funny, because I've been wanting a Tesla. I don't even know why, but I've been wanting a Tesla, and I don't think I like actually I'm going to tell you why. The main thing that got me onto Tesla was because you can program the Tesla to say there's a dog in the car.
Yeah.
And
That
I
is,
just like, just for me, it was just like, yeah, that's what I want. I want that kind of car that thinks about my dog, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I kind of like, I understand that, but I'm sure there's way more than just a dog thing. um, so, so what we were talking about, um, we were talking about wanting and desiring and knowing the difference between something that we want because and something that we want just because it's something that we want. So do you have anything to say about that? Like, can have you identified the difference between those two?
Well, I do see it that there must be a reason. There must always be a reason that we want something. Maybe it's a convenience thing. It's like, hey, I don't want to, so I had to go buy something at the store. It was jack oil to jack up the car, and it was $5.99. And I'm like, the stupid jack should have come with it, right? So like, well, I want to use the jack. I'm gonna need to buy this oil. Like, it sounds stupid. It's $5-6, but I had a need. I want to jack up this car, so there was my desire for it. So I feel like there's always a desire. We might not exactly know what is at the very root of it, but it seems like there must be a reason, or else we probably wouldn't want it.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I'm gonna change my thought. Like, not the thought, but I'm just gonna veer a little bit. So when you got the Tesla, now we're not, we don't want to drop names here. It's not like we wanted to talk about Teslas, but you brought it up, so I'm just gonna bring it on. Um, did you dream of it? Like, so you said you would never invest it, but did you have a dream about it? Like, so dream it, dare it, do it is kind of like, I have this thing where I saw in my life that sometimes I had these dreams of wanting something, and then I would um, dare to do it and then do it. So I'm going to give you an example. I wanted to sing. So I said, okay, well, I want to sing on a stage. Well, the long way around that would be like to start and go find an agent and then start pumping it out. And I was like, that's way too long for me. Let me see. Where is there a stage? Can I have that stage? Can I use this stage? Like, I kind of like always dared to do something that I wanted. And I saw, as I was um, evolving in my life, that I stopped myself. So, like, sometimes I dreamt of something, and then something showed up that made me say, oh, I shouldn't dream that. I shouldn't do this. And so at one point I stopped dreaming, literally. I just stopped it because there was always something that came up in the way that told me that I shouldn't do it. And then I kind of gave myself permission to do it again, to start saying, oh, I'd like to have a podcast and interview my friends and just have conversations and see if people would like it. And I dared, and I did. So when I hear like that you never would have spent the money on a Tesla, is it something like that that you saw that like, did you just give yourself permission to do it? Like, have you seen anything in that respect?
Very interesting question. And I think it's a very valuable question. So, all right. So for me, it was always like, let me build. It looked like this is what life was about. Like, let me get to the end and have all the, not toys necessarily, but let me see how far I can get, right? The whole point of life, right? Like, oh, I got to build a business. I got to build the bank account as much as I can get. And I even bought these fake $100 bills, and then I bought a couple $1 million bills, and I printed up a wrapper, and I had that sitting on my desk where I worked for so long. It was so I was like, okay, fine, Grant Cardone, 10x. My goal is to be worth $100 million, right? So that's what I was doing for so long, working so hard, putting it into it. So buying a Tesla doesn't really match up with that, right? Because it's kind of, in a sense, it's a waste, other than it's really safe and that type of thing. But for me, it was, I mean, you could get a Honda CRV, and that's perfectly fine, right?
Yeah.
30,000 brand new. Once I saw that, once it was no longer, once it didn't look real to strive to have $100 million in the bank, that went away, and that opened the door to the Tesla uh, coming into reality.
Hmm.
I actually had a reservation on a Tesla, 3 years ago, and once it was my turn to place my order, once it showed up, I was like, oh, I'm not spending this much money on a car. It's stupid, and I canceled my reservation. So then, yeah, I mean, it just kind of, I drove by the Tesla place and I stopped in because they're cool cars. I want to check it out, and within 3 weeks, we picked up the Tesla. So it was kind of freaky, just so like day and night, right? Like, who even am I comparing one to the other? It's such a stark contrast, but that's the value in insights. Your whole world can shift.
Hmm. So what's the biggest, I'm going to give it a quality qualification of biggest, but I'm sure that you've had many other insights that you don't even know are big because you just haven't seen them yet. But what is one of the biggest insights that you've had since you've started? I think it's like it's a look within, right? And it's like the looking within ourselves to see differently.
Yeah. Well, as my shirt says here, it says, keep it hyper real. And it's Morpheus's hands. And he was holding a red pill and a blue pill for the choice. Well, there is no blue pill on the shirt. It's both red pill. And it says, keep it hyper real. So that's what I'm going to do now. The biggest thing that has the thing that has changed the most for me is seeing that we do not have free will, that we're running on our software program, right? The Tesla is programmed a certain way, and that's what it does. We are programmed by our genes and our conditioning and our experiences in life, and that's what happens. So once I saw that, any guilt, any troubles, any shame, it no longer made sense, because if we're always just doing what occurs to us to do, how could I have done any differently in a situation? And I feel like that is where the end of seeking comes from, is seeing that aspect.
Mm. Do you find that you're more present now that
I
you've seen this?
Yeah, I do in the sense that I don't have a lot of distractions, things that were, oh, it's so important. I need to go work on this. I need to go work on that. I can just be, because it all matters, but it all doesn't matter at the same time, right? It's equal, right? Nothing matters, but also everything matters. So yeah, just being able to be in the moment and just kind of like, well, okay, Michael Neal says, we're the plane, we're not the pilot, right? So just seeing where life takes me, like, I mean, my God, how cool is that? Just to be here and experience all of what life has to offer.
Mm. You know, when I first met you, the back of your wall was full, you know, mm, yeah, full of distractions. It's like, what is that saying? What is that saying? What does that say? Like it, and like for those of you who wonder what the heck I'm talking about, Jason had in the back in his backdrop, there was always a whole bunch of quotes and sayings and things like that. And I believe he saw something during Super Coach Academy, because one morning he came on to a class and everything was gone. So, like one of the things that I saw, because I'm like you, I like the quotes, and I like, I used to have, I didn't have quotes on the wall, but I had them all over my, like you could look at my book and there was Post-its all over them, and like really, I wasn't even looking at them anyways. I mean, they were there, but I wasn't looking at them. So it just gradually, I just took them out, because it was no longer something like that I read that went, oh yeah, you're right. There was no right or wrong. Now they kind of like show up. I still love quotes. I adore them. If you go see my Instagram, they're all there. But now it's more of a reflection kind of thing. Like I kind of go, huh, it's just like, it's a, huh, yeah, what have you seen? Like why did you have them there? One, two, why are they not there anymore?
Well, so my mentor coach said, I like the quotes. Michael said he liked the quotes. And she said, but, if you're doing Zoom calls here, people are trying to pay attention to what you're saying, but they're seeing all this noise in the background. And I said, you know what? I really can see that. So I went ahead and took them down. I mean, I still have them all in Google Keep, right? All my quotes are in there. They're all tagged in different things. But what I realized after that is like, there was a settling for me. And it's funny because it kind of sounds like what you're saying is I would walk by this wall, and it's not like it was shouting at me every time, because it just faded. It became background. You don't notice it. But I noticed more of a settling down, and that could have come with other insights and might not have been that. But I did notice more of a peaceful sense. But what I want to say the reason is because those, I wouldn't put those quotes back up, and I don't post a lot on Instagram now because a lot of those quotes don't even make sense. I felt like I needed those quotes before because I had so many things I needed to fix. Okay, yep, okay, don't be rude to people. Good, got it. That's a belief, right?
Yeah.
If it no longer makes sense to be rude to somebody because I see they're just acting on their programming, I don't need another belief that says don't be rude. It just doesn't make sense to be rude. So that clarity right there, that simplicity is, man, it's almost like you're in an oasis, right? And it's just peaceful and calm. It's been a crazy shift.
Yeah. Yeah. Your being is different too. Like, yeah, I can feel your being is more settled. And that's what I was talking with a girlfriend, not about you, but I was talking to a girlfriend where I heard in her tone of voice where there was settledness, that like I could hear the stillness in just the color of her voice, and what was coming out was like peace, you know. And she really said, I'm in a good space right now. And it's really amazing how when we can really settle all of the noise, how your come from is different, and
Mm-hmm.
your being just is calm, and then, like you said, you don't need to defend or protect or any of those things that you're normally doing, because you got all this noise in your head, right?
Yeah.
So I find it gorgeous. So you told me a little earlier that you haven't been coaching much. So that's not really right now what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
But let's say you were to, or one of the person listening right now is like, yeah, right, you guys, you're crazy. I can't dream. My dream is not attainable. Are you crazy? what would you say? Would you have, I call them nuggets of wisdom. Do you have a little nugget of wisdom there?
What I find is interesting is if it's okay, so I heard this recently, it's Murphy's Law. Whatever can happen will happen. And that was my mom's thing for the longest time. Like, oh, Murphy's Law, I have the worst luck. But what I saw differently about that is if it's possible that it can happen in the world, then it will happen, or else it would be impossible, right? So can anybody this dream that you're having, can anybody do it? Is there anybody in the world who can do this? And even that 4-minute mile that people thought was impossible, right? No one else has ever done it. Well, I guess it's impossible. Somebody beat that. And then a couple months later, a couple weeks later, somebody else beat it because now they knew it was possible. So I think with the dreaming, right? It can't be true that you couldn't do it. Right? Oh, I want to start a podcast. Well, who am I to start a podcast? I could never do something like that. It's just not true. It's not truth. But we can believe it into existence. So questioning why am I believing that I can't do this? And letting that belief fall away because you can see like, oh, that's not true. It opens you up for just anything to happen.
Nice. What do you have to say about daring something, daring to do something?
So that kind of, to me, feels like feel the fear and do it anyway.
Okay.
Right? Or you got to force yourself, right? I got to dare. Okay, somebody dared me to do this. I'm so nervous. I'm so freaked out. But I think looking at why this feels so scary and seeing that that's not true, it kind of takes the scariness out of it. And then you just do it, right? I was texting with you, about our call today. And I was telling you how I went to my family's for Thanksgiving in quarantine at their house. Yeah. So I let my hair grow out a bit. I have a bald head. And I shaved it old man style, and I shaved exactly the middle part. You know how a lot of people, older people have hair on the
Mr.
side.
Magoo.
Yeah. So I look like an idiot, but it wasn't a problem because there's no self for me to protect, right? I go there. Oh, even my brother-in-law, he's like, oh, if you don't shave your head, you're not going to go to work with me, ride with me around. He does pest control, but to somebody else or me previously, that's too, oh, I'm going to look like a total idiot. I can't do that. Versus if that's not a reality for me, that it's a problem to look like an idiot, then I can just do it. It's not a dare. It's not really even a dare,
Yeah. It's funny because also it didn't exist in my world. Whether you would have come with your hair or no hair, I wouldn't have seen the difference, honestly. Like it did, like you sent me a picture and I was like, what, that's different from usual? Like, so you thought you looked like an idiot? I was like, no, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, it didn't exist in my world. It was just like, and I see it. I see it like for many things, like, what I think, like I looked at my hair before I came on, like I'm going to get my hair colored right after we finish our recording. And I was talking to a girlfriend and I was like, I look like a skunk, do I look like a skunk?
No, I don't think so. Now that you mention it, I can see why you might think that, but
see, so, but it doesn't exist in other people's world. Like, so why do I believe it?
Well, that's a really good point. And what's funny about that is, so we went and got this, went to this deli and I ordered a breakfast sandwich and the guy's like, bacon, sausage. I'm like, yeah, all that sounds good. And he's like, sir, you have to pick one of them. And I was like, oh, he probably just thinks I'm some dork with this haircut. Like, I put the pieces together. He did, like you said, he didn't think anything of it. It's just somebody with a haircut. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And he was just thinking about, what my boss wants you to choose. I can't charge you. Like, I can't give it to you for free, dude.
Yeah.
It's funny what we make up, eh?
Yeah. So just seeing that no judgment thought can be true, like truth, true for all time. It allows us to move in the world now without limits. It's like Michael Neal said. He says, you can play full out and fearless because you know that nothing of true value actually depends on it. So you can go start this business and you can go fail at a business and start a new one. And as long as your happiness and your identity is not tied to that, you can just go do what occurs to you to do and get little ego Jason and Jasmine out of the way. And when we're not throwing up all these things about why we can't do something because they look true, then we just do the thing that occurs to us to do.
Yeah. I've been doing this podcast has helped me um, see different things as I'm going, as I'm recording, like even inside this specific recording, I saw myself go into my head, and I was just like, okay, just get out, as opposed to in the past, I would have, started talking even faster so that I could finish the thought in my head so that I could get to something good, you know? And
Yeah.
then now it was just kind of like, okay, what's next? Like, and the other thing that has occurred for me inside this process of creating the podcast, like I told you, after this, I'm gonna find a series of images where you're laughing, and I'm gonna create this drop image that I'm gonna put on Instagram. And what I have to do is I have to scroll the image, like, so I'm scrolling my video and I'm looking at you, right? Well, at the same time, I'm looking at me. And what I if I look at the beginning when I used to do that, I would get upset with me. I would be like, look at that face. Man. And the more that we're moving on in the episodes, like now I'm at your episode 12. So, and I'm doing 13, right? So you're episode 12. But now I'm like looking at it and I'm like, look at how alive I am. Cause I'm like, I'm moving and I'm like laughing and like I'm more alive and I'm um not hitting myself about it. So I'm getting like layers of thinking are falling away. And that gives me freedom
Yeah.
to see that. Which, did we talk about freedom? Did I ask you about freedom?
I don't think so.
Because I just finished a conversation. That's why I'm kind of like, okay, wait, was it this one?
Yeah.
So tell me what is freedom for you? Like, cause I was explaining, I could see that freedom is when I'm doing what I want, no matter, no matter what I think.
Yeah. Well, and just about what you said about, I review the tape and I see you and I see me and I can't believe I scratched my ear or whatever the case is, right? What I think is very interesting about that is seeing that we're always acting according to what looks true or our habits or whatever. You get to see that. And it's like, oh, I left my laundry basket in the back. What an idiot. No, it's not that you're an idiot. It's that you didn't even know it was there, right? So now it's like next podcast, I know to check my surroundings, right? Your software has been updated, your conditioning has been updated.
Mm,
And that's how we always work. So it's very cool to see like, oh, I said this to this guy. That was a dick move. I wouldn't, whatever the case is, we learn as we go, and that's what drives us. So I think that's cool. And when it no longer makes sense to beat ourselves up and why did I do that? I'm such an idiot. When that doesn't even look like it could be true, it just leaves space for us to grow and change and realize new things.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. Very nice. Wow. Well then, so I think, yeah, I think this was a good conversation. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to ask
Yeah, you're
you,
welcome. Thanks for the invite.
you're you're um you're in New York, right?
Yep.
So if
Yeah.
anybody wants to sell their house and they're in New York, they have to be in New York, or like how do they get in touch with you?
Well, that's what's funny. So I live in New York, but my business is in Kentucky. So we're right outside the
What?
Fort Knox. We're outside the Fort Knox area. So yeah, if anybody is listening to this and they live in the Fort Knox area, you can look us
Okay.
up.
How does that work? Like what the I'm sorry, but what the hell?
Yeah, well, I guess even so that was 2011, and I was like, well, screw it. I'm going to move to New York, back home, and try to keep this business going. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out,
And it
and
works out.
and it worked out. I guess I never believed that it couldn't.
Okay.
So we just kept going. But yeah, so if you want to check out, I have a site, alterability.co. You can check that out there. I am doing a little bit of coaching with people who really want the freedom, like you talked about, right? Not necessarily somebody who's like, oh, dabbling necessarily, but if you really truly want to see that this is no matter what's happening in the world, COVID and bats and UFOs, the world is not shitty. This is not a bad year. Like, this is an amazing year that we get to experience. If you want to move through life and just freaking love all of it and create and do things, then that's the people that I want to coach.
Love
So
it. Very, very cool. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming. And I bid you good luck in everything that you do. And in the meantime, everybody, please like like the page, like my YouTube page, like my Instagram, just like everything about me, please. Uh, I need to be liked, please, people. And I'm gonna invite you to just dream it, dare it, and do it. So there you go, guys. You have a good day. Take care, and see you next week.